The sky above New York City crackled with streaks of violet light, a phenomenon no scientist could explain. People dismissed it as an atmospheric glitch, until the night they arrived. Among the neon-lit skyline, Nail stood at the edge of a rooftop, her translucent form shimmering like a liquid gemstone. She wasn't like the other Yelvexians, those who hid in the shadows, observing humans from a distance. No, she wanted to experience this world fully. She wanted to feel. Then she saw him. Levin was just an ordinary human, a biomedical engineer working late shifts, his tired eyes fixed on a tablet as he walked across the rooftop garden of his apartment building. He had no idea a being from another world was watching him with fascination. A sudden gust of wind flared through the air, carrying an unnatural warmth. Levin turned, his gaze locking onto the impossible sight before him, Nail, her fluid-like body rippling with soft, iridescent hues. "What the hell?" his voice trailed off. Nail stepped forward, her form solidifying into a vaguely human shape. "Human," she murmured, her voice both melodic and deep, like an echo through time. "You see me? You're glowing. Kind of hard not to." Her lips curved, an approximation of a smile, though she had no real mouth. "Then you are special." Levin had never believed in aliens, much less ones that looked like shifting crystal sculptures. Yet, here she was, close enough that he could feel a strange energy radiating from her. "Special how?" he asked, gripping his tablet tighter. She hesitated. "You are compatible." The way she said it sent a shiver down his spine. "Compatible for what exactly?" Nail stepped closer, her shimmering hand reaching toward his. The moment her fingers brushed his skin, a shock wave of warmth traveled through his entire body, an intimate sensation that bypassed words. His breath caught. "What was that?" Nail's luminous gaze locked onto his. "A beginning." Levin barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, his mind echoed with the sensation of her touch. It wasn't just physical contact, it had meant something. Something he couldn't explain. He spent the next day trying to rationalize it. Maybe it was a hallucination, a side effect of too many late shifts and too little rest. But deep down, he knew better. That feeling, that connection, had been real. And he needed answers. The sun had long since set when he returned to the rooftop. His heartbeat quickened as he scanned the space, half expecting to find nothing but the cool night air. But then, there she was. Nail stood near the edge, her form shimmering softly in the moonlight. It was as if she had been waiting for him. "You felt it," she said simply, her voice brushing against his mind like a whisper. Levin exhaled. "Yeah, no kidding. What are you?" She tilted her head, her luminous body shifting like liquid glass. "A Yelvexian. We are not beings of flesh, but of energy. We do not exist separately, we merge with those we bond with." Levin's mind struggled to grasp her words. Merge? Like a hive mind. She shook her head. "No. It is more intimate. To merge with someone is to become them, to share every thought, every emotion, every sensation." His pulse quickened. "And you want to do that? With me?" Her glow softened. "I need to. Humans are unique. Your emotions, they have depth unlike anything I have encountered. I want to feel them. I want to feel you." Levin swallowed hard. There was something deeply vulnerable about the way she spoke, as if she were offering herself completely. "But if you merge with me," he asked carefully, "what happens to you?" Nail stepped closer, her form shifting again, her glow intensifying. "I will not disappear. I will become. We will exist as one, our minds intertwined. Your joys will be my joys. Your pain, my pain." The idea both terrified and intrigued him. He hesitated. "What if I say no?" Nail's light dimmed slightly. "Then I will remain as I am, alone." His chest tightened at the sadness in her voice. Somehow, the thought of her being alone felt wrong. He exhaled sharply. "I don't understand any of this, but I felt something last night. And I can't ignore that." Nail's glow pulsed, like a heartbeat. Then let us begin. The moment Levin agreed, something in the air shifted. It was subtle at first, a warmth brushing over his skin, like standing too close to a low-burning fire. Nail's glow intensified, her iridescent form pulsating with a rhythm that matched his own heartbeat. "Close your eyes," she whispered. His breath hitched. "Why?" She tilted her head, stepping closer until the space between them was almost non-existent. "Because this is not something you see. It is something you feel." Levin hesitated, but curiosity overpowered his apprehension. Slowly, he let his eyelids drift shut. The moment he did, everything changed. A flood of sensations washed over him, waves of warmth, unfamiliar emotions, flickering memories that weren't his. He gasped as 1,000 thoughts swirled in his mind, overlapping with his own. He felt her wonder, her longing, her loneliness that stretched through time. This is what she's been carrying all along? His chest tightened. The weight of her emotions wasn't overwhelming, but it was intimate in a way he had never known. Nail wasn't just talking to him, she was sharing herself completely. He opened his eyes and found her standing before him, her form shimmering more vibrantly than before. "You're in my head," he breathed. Her glow pulsed. "And you are in mine." Levin stumbled back, his mind reeling. He could still think, still be himself, but there was something new inside him, an undercurrent of warmth, an awareness that wasn't his own. He struggled to find the words. "It's not like I expected." Nail's light softened. "You are still you, Levin. I am not taking your thoughts or changing who you are. I am only with you." His breathing slowed as he processed it. She was right. He didn't feel controlled or lost. Instead, there was a strange comfort in her presence, like a silent whisper in his mind, grounding him. He exhaled. "This is insane." She gave a small, shimmering laugh. "Perhaps. But does it frighten you?" He ran a hand through his hair, trying to steady himself. "I don't know. It's just, what does this mean?" Nail took a step closer, and Levin felt a ripple of warmth through his chest. "It means you are no longer alone. It means I can experience life as you do. And, if you allow it, it means we can become something even greater together." Levin swallowed. "And what exactly is that?" Her glow flared for the briefest moment. "A union. A bond deeper than anything your kind has ever known." His heart pounded. "You mean like—" "Yes." Her voice was softer now, almost hesitant. "Love." Levin's breath caught. He had barely known her for 2 days, and yet, he could feel it. The intensity. The pull. The way her presence wrapped around him, not like an invasion, but like a longing, one that had waited a lifetime to be answered. "I don't know if I can do this," he admitted. "I don't even understand it." "You do not have to understand," she murmured. "You only have to feel." And then, for the first time, Nail reached for him, not just physically, but fully. The moment her fingers brushed against his cheek, Levin gasped. A surge of warmth spread through his entire body, but it wasn't fire, it was something more. He felt her devotion, her desire to belong, her need to be his, and in that moment, all his doubts vanished. His hands trembled as he reached up, cupping the space where her face should have been. She wasn't flesh and blood, but he could feel her energy molding into his, wrapping around him like a second soul. The connection deepened. Levin's thoughts were no longer just his own. He could hear hers, feel her emotions surging alongside his. It was terrifying and exhilarating at once. And then, he heard her voice, no longer just speaking to him, but inside him. "Levin, let me in completely." His heartbeat roared in his ears. But he already knew the answer. His grip on her tightened. "Then take everything." Nail's glow pulsed, surrounding him in warmth, in light, in something neither of them could ever walk away from now. They were no longer separate. They were becoming one. The world around Levin blurred. His body felt weightless, as though he were floating in a vast ocean of warmth and light. Nail's presence was everywhere, around him, within him, part of him. It should have been terrifying. He should have felt like he was losing himself. But instead it was right. For the first time in his life, he wasn't alone in his own mind. Levin, her voice whispered inside him, softer than a breath, "You are beautiful." A shiver ran down his spine. The intimacy of it all was overwhelming. He could feel her admiration, her wonder at every sensation she was experiencing through him. His heartbeat, his breath, the way his body reacted to her presence. Nail, he thought, not even needing to speak aloud. Yes? Is this what you wanted? She hesitated, and he felt a flicker of vulnerability in her thoughts. More than I ever imagined. For a moment, neither of them moved. Levin's heart pounded against his ribs, but it wasn't fear driving it, it was something deeper. Something unspoken. He swallowed hard, reaching up to touch her. His fingers brushed against her shimmering form, and instantly, a pulse of warmth spread through him. It wasn't just physical contact. It was sharing. He felt what she felt. A deep ache. A longing she had carried for longer than he could comprehend. Nail's kind, the Yelvexians, were beings of connection. To exist alone was a slow kind of death for them. And yet, she had waited. Searching for someone who could truly be with her, who wouldn't just merge with her body, but with her very soul. And now she had found him. Levin exhaled shakily. "I can feel everything," he murmured. "Your emotions, your thoughts, your love." Her glow pulsed. "Yes. And I can feel yours." His chest tightened. He wasn't the type to fall for someone quickly. He had always been cautious, guarded. But Nail wasn't like anyone he had ever met, she wasn't even human. And yet, she understands me better than anyone ever has. He could sense her nervousness. She was afraid of overwhelming him, afraid he would pull away. But he didn't want to. Slowly, deliberately, he wrapped his arms around her. Nail gasped, an almost inaudible sound, but through their connection, he felt her reaction. The way her energy trembled, the way she melted into him, as though this single gesture meant more than words ever could. "You're not alone anymore," he whispered. Her form rippled with emotion. "Neither are you." The weight of those words settled deep in his heart. She wasn't just merging with him because she needed someone. She had chosen him. Levin tightened his hold, pressing her closer. "If we do this, if we truly become one, what will happen to me?" Nail's glow softened, surrounding him in warmth. "You will still be you, Levin. But you will never have to face the world alone again. Your thoughts, your feelings. I will always be with you." His breath hitched. It was a promise unlike anything he had ever heard. For so long, he had kept people at a distance, afraid of letting anyone get too close. And yet, Nail had stepped into his life, into his mind, and had offered him something no human ever could. A bond deeper than words. A love stronger than distance, stronger than fear. Stronger than anything he had ever known. A slow, steady realization filled him. He didn't just accept this. He wanted it. Levin's fingers tightened against her form. "Then don't hold back," he whispered. Nail's light flared, bright and breathtaking. And in that moment she truly became a part of him. The moment Nail fully merged with him, Levin's world shattered and reformed in an instant. A rush of sensations flooded his mind, colors brighter than anything he had ever seen, emotions so raw they felt like living fire. He could feel her inside him, not as an intruder, but as a presence so deeply intertwined with his own that he couldn't tell where she ended and he began. He gasped, his body shivering from the overwhelming intensity of it. "Nail? I am here," she whispered, her voice threading through his thoughts like a gentle caress. "And I will never leave." Levin's knees buckled, but instead of falling, warmth wrapped around him, holding him up. It wasn't physical arms, it was her. She was inside him, within every part of him, a constant presence he could feel like a second heartbeat. His breath came in shallow gasps as he tried to process it. He was still himself, his thoughts, his feelings, his memories. But now there was more. A second consciousness intertwined with his, a constant, soothing presence that filled the hollow spaces he never even realized existed. For the first time in his life, he wasn't alone. He reached up, pressing a hand to his chest, feeling the warmth that now pulsed beneath his skin. "You're really part of me now." A soft, loving laugh echoed in his mind. "Yes. And you are part of me." Levin exhaled, his lips curving into a slow smile. It should have felt strange, unnatural, even, but instead it felt like home. The city lights stretched far below them, the hum of traffic a distant song. And yet, for the first time, he felt connected to something far greater than the world around him. Nail's presence wrapped around him like a lover's embrace. "Tell me, Levin, how does it feel?" He let his eyes drift shut, listening to the steady rhythm of her energy pulsing within him. He felt whole, complete in a way he never had before. "It feels," he whispered, "like I was always meant to be with you." A warm pulse of emotion flowed through him, her happiness, her love, so strong it nearly brought him to his knees. "Then let us never be apart." Levin opened his eyes, a slow smile spreading across his lips. "Never." The night wind swirled around them, carrying the distant echoes of a city that would never know what had happened on this rooftop. But it didn't matter. Because, in that moment, Levin and Nail were no longer just two beings standing side by side. They were one.